Okay. Good. I think I'll read from what I have, not this one. So good morning, everyone. My name is Dan Peer. I'm the Vice President for Research and Development at Tel Aviv University. And today we are gathered again, as every year, to celebrate our fantastic scientists. So dear Kadar family member joining us online, distinguished awardees and their families, governors, colleagues, students, and guests. We are gathered here to celebrate excellence in science and teaching at Tel Aviv University. Unfortunately, none of the Kadar family members were able to join us today in person, so I'd like to direct your attention to a greeting from Maya Kadar Kowalski on behalf of the Nomi Foundation and the Kadar family. I invite you to listen to a recorded greeting.
Thank you, President Porat and Professor Pe'er. Thank you, fellow governors, and thank you, guests. And a special thank you to the selection committee who had the difficult and exciting task of choosing the remarkable recipients of the Kadar Family Award, and the many people who helped put this presentation together. Our family, including myself, my father, Dr. Avram Kadar, my brother, Nadav Kadar, and my sister, Einat Kadar Kricheli, established the Naomi Foundation to honor my mother, Naomi Prower Kadar, Zichrona Lebracha, who was a lifelong educator and a scholar. Through the Naomi Foundation, our family supports innovation in education. The theme of this year's Board of Governors meeting is Big Ideas, Changing Lives. We are proud to partner with Tel Aviv University in many ways because our foundation is all about changing lives through education. And as a higher learning institution, we feel that Tel Aviv University shares these values and goals. Among the Naomi Foundation's projects at TAU, we support scholarships for MD, PhD students. We support the Naomi Prower Kadar International Yiddish Summer Program. And we support groundbreaking research and scholarship through the Kadar Family Award. Through this award, we look at the great strides in the sciences and the humanities that outstanding researchers and scholars are driving forward. We celebrate the pioneering spirit and hard work of these scholars, understanding that each discovery or theory they produce helps us all to change the world for the better. Please join me and my family in congratulating the 2022 recipients of the Kadar Family Award for Outstanding Research. Let me wish you all a hearty Mazal Tov on reaching this high level of distinction. And thank you for your path-breaking contributions in your respective fields.
Okay, thank you, Maya, and thank you to the Kadar family. And we hope to see you here at Tel Aviv University very soon. So I'd like now to invite President Porat to say a few words.
Okay, maybe lights on and this lights a little bit lower, if possible. Good, okay, thank you. Okay, now I can see people over here. Good morning. This is a celebration. Actually, there are two parts of the celebration today. One part is to celebrate the deep relationship between Tel Aviv University and the Kadar family. And the second one, of course, is to celebrate the Kadar Prize and with the two laureates, or the two awardees, sitting us on the first row. So the Kadar family has very deep roots and relationship with Tel Aviv University. Maya, that you've just met through Zoom, Einat and Nadav, all the three are graduates of Tel Aviv University. And the entire family has a close relationship with us. It's a very special family. Maya mentioned some of the projects that they support at Tel Aviv University. One of the very interesting one is the Yiddish program. We have a summer international program in Yiddish, and that's another very interesting project supported by the family. And there are other collaborations that I believe would be materialized in the next couple of years with this family. So I have kind of interesting memories from the first time I met the Kadar family. I mentioned it last time when we awarded the Kadar Awards, but then it was a different board, only with Israeli. So let me repeat the story, and I apologize for the Kadar family that already have heard this story, but it will be short. So before COVID, I traveled to New York, and one of the meetings was with the Kadar family, with Avraham Kadar and Avraham's children. And when we sat to discuss the family's ties with the university, they asked me questions that I am not asked very often in the last 3 years when I am the president of the university. They were interested about my academic field. We academicians, there is nothing we like more than to talk about, right? This is the question you want to beg from everybody. Tell me about your research, right? And that's what they did. So I presented today. It was a kind of an interesting situation. So I took one of the papers that I have published a few years ago, and I made a very brief presentation of the ideas of the paper. And then there was a discussion. It was a fantastic workshop. After the discussion, I thought to myself, well, I already published the paper. There are so many things I could change in the paper after hearing the remarks, and it was very enjoyable for me. Of course, we talked not just about my paper, but also about some other things, but it was a kind of a very special experience. Now, during the years, I've met Avraham Kadar and his wife Michal numerous times. Especially with Avraham, we had really many discussions. Whenever he comes to Israel, when he usually comes for a few weeks. When he comes to Tel Aviv, we meet for one time and then another time before he leaves. I consider him to be a real asset to the university. Not just the family, but Avraham himself. I consult with him about issues concerning the university, the challenges that the university faces, and I always get excellent advices, and his wisdom is very helpful for me. Let me say now a few words about the prize that we are awarding today. So it's the 8th year of the prize. It has been inaugurated 8 years ago. And the concept of the prize is interesting, simple and interesting. So the idea is that every year, I'm sure that many of you know that we used to divide the campus to two parts. There is the West and the East. When we say the East, this is the hard sciences. It's exact sciences, medicine, life science, and engineering. And on the West side, we have humanities, social sciences, law, management, and arts. And the concept of the prize is that every year there is a selecting committee that selects one senior, the best senior researcher that we have at the campus, from the senior lecturer, senior professor from the West, and another one from the East, and then same thing with two like a younger or a junior faculty. So altogether 4 excellent researchers were selected every year. I was a member in the founding selecting committee. It was appointed by my predecessor, who is here with us today, Professor Yossi Klafter. And I remember how serious we took this mission. Sometimes prizes are considered to be political, and this one is purely on the merits. And the committee itself is composed, well, this is going to be a kind of a self-compliment. I didn't mean to do it, but really of very, very serious people sitting in that committee. Well, except of the first 2 years when I was a member, but from the 3rd year and on, only very serious people were there. And every year, the committee does an excellent job in their selection. You know, really look at what people have written about, ask opinions of others, and eventually comes out with 4 laureates. This time, they've done an excellent job, as they did in other years. I'm familiar with some of the work of some of the people sitting here, not all of you, and not all what you have written, but I know some of Leo and Michal writings, and from my unprofessional point of view, these are excellent decisions. You know, Leo is the former dean of the Faculty of Humanities, which seems to indicate or to be in evidence that there are life after deanship, right? You could do something even after deanship. Okay, so it's a great occasion. I'm looking forward to hearing your presentations. And let me thank to the Kadar family for generosity, and to the Nomi Praver Kadar Foundation. You know, Nomi is the late wife of Avraham Kadar, and the foundation, with also its executive CEO, Lindsay Brodner. They do an excellent job, not just at Tel Aviv University, but also in other places in advancing academic research and excellence. So thank you very much.
Okay, so as Professor Porat mentioned, and thank you for Professor Porat, there are 4 Kadar Awards that are given every year in the following order. 2 for senior faculty members, 1 of each side of the campus, meaning 1 from engineering, exact science, medicine, or life sciences, and 1 for humanities, management, law, social sciences, or arts. In addition, 2 awards are given to junior faculty according to the same principle. This year, we received more than 45 applications. All the candidates were excellent, which made our task really not an easy one. So I want to also thank the committee that had 7 distinguished members that did a very nice job in identify, I would say everyone is the best, but the best of the best. And I'm very happy to start with the first one. So the first one is Professor Michal Feldman from the Blavatnik School of Computer Science, the Raymond and Beverly Sackler Faculty of Exact Science. So our senior RD from the east side of the campus, as I mentioned, is Professor Michal Feldman. She's the head of the Economics and Computation Laboratory. Michal is one of the most visible and successful researchers of her generation, working in the exciting and rapidly emerging field of algorithmic game theory, which is suited at the intersection between theoretical computer science and economics. She's also a female scientist in the field that has significant underrepresentation of women, and a shining example as a role model and a scientific leader with many fundamental scientific contributions. Her strongest contributions have come through the series of insight that she has provided regarding the pricing of items in a certain class of auctions. Her body of scholarship is especially notable for its astonishing breadth and creativity. She's also a wonderful communicator, giving clear and compelling technical seminars. And believe me, I've seen a few. So in Michal's second year of graduate studies at the University of California at Berkeley, one of her female professors gave her the golden tip. No children before tenure. This is what she said. But she didn't know that Michal was already a proud mother of 2. So now I invite you to see Michal's videos presentation, and then I'll invite her to the podium.
Every time you search the web, a huge auction takes place. The item for sale, your attention. The buyers, advertisers, trying to catch it. Type New York summer 2022 and thousands of hotels, car rentals, and airlines compete to advertise to you. Auction theory isn't new. Since the 1960s, economists have explored how to design auctions that work well. The added component in the internet age is the new scale and complexity of the emerging markets, calling for the design of efficient algorithms that respond in a fraction of a second. My research area is called algorithmic game theory. It marries the science of algorithms from computer science with the science of incentives from economics and game theory. Auction design is just one application. Others include ride-sharing, network routing, blockchains, freelancing, dating, and many other commercial and social systems that run over the huge computational platform known as the internet. The algorithms for these applications interact with self-interested users, each with their own goals and incentives. The grand challenge is to design algorithms that perform well both computationally and economically, while incentivizing users to behave cooperatively. For example, algorithms for ride-sharing apps should match passengers and drivers efficiently, while incentivizing drivers to truthfully report their preferences and availability for pickups. The flow of ideas between computer science and economics goes in both directions and establishes unexpected bridges. For example, computer science has a mathematical way to talk about approximately optimal solutions. That is, solutions that are not perfect, but close to it. This opens up entirely new horizons versus classic economic theory and allows us to formalize and prove assertions that economists have previously not had that terminology to express. For example, we can now mathematically explain why some practical auction formats perform better than others. While I am motivated by practical applications, I'm a theorist. I provide foundational mathematical theory that informs the design of these applications. My tools are pen and paper, and the beautiful mathematics developed over the years in economics, game theory, and computer science. I feel very privileged to create science that encompasses truth, beauty, and practical applications.
So I invite Professor Feldman to the podium. Okay, our second senior award goes to Professor Leo Corry of the Cohn Institute for History and Philosophy of Science at the Entin Faculty of Humanities. Leo's skills in elucidating the emergence of some of the most significant core areas of modern mathematics and mathematical physics has always been coupled with a critical reflection of what Professor Yehuda Elkanah termed the changing images of knowledge. Corry's sustained productivity is all the more impressive as he also very successfully took in academic duties at the university beyond his own research and teaching duties. He directed the Cohn Institute for History and Philosophy of Science and Ideas and later served as the Dean of Humanities. What I would like to emphasize is that all his colleagues from Israel whom I met during his deanship applaud his even-handed and pragmatic guidance in difficult years of the institutional reconstructing. His decades-long romance with Tao started exactly 41 years ago, May 1981. 4 years before the romance with his wife, also quite a long time ago. So he arrived in Israel from Venezuela in 1977, age 21 years old, after completing 5 years of university studies. You do the math, right? Okay, in pure mathematics, summa cum laude. He made Aliyah with his friends from Hashomer HaTzair to Kibbutz Nirim on the border of Gaza, where he started to work in farming. So you are an interesting guy. Okay. And where he remained an active member for the next 22 years. Despite the Army's engagements to really use the very talented mathematician with a science background, Leo decided to fulfill his dream of becoming a paratrooper, which he then saw as the essence of being an Israeli. We can talk about this later. Later, when he attended PhD studies in math at Tel Aviv University, he occasionally came to listen to lectures of all kinds at the Gilman Building of Humanities, where more than 30 years later, the dean's office would become his own office. It was back then, in 1982, that he discovered quite by chance that there was a newly established institute for history and philosophy of science. Here at Tau, he decided to join. He became the Institute's third PhD student and eventually its third director. And it remains his academic home to this day. So now, let's watch his presentation.
How did Israel become the startup nation and a powerhouse of excellence and innovation in so many fields of science and technology? What was the role of science and technology in the Zionist ideology and in the nation-building processes undertaken at the young state of Israel? Historians of science, like myself, try to understand how scientific ideas and technological innovations come into the world. Why are some adopted and spread widely, while others are abandoned? What's the role of individual change agents? And how do external factors like social processes, political events, wars, pandemics, ideologies, social crises, economic crises affect these developments? Dr. Raya Leviatan and I investigated the process leading to the construction of the Weizsäck, the first electronic computer built in Israel, which became operational in 1955 at the Weizmann Institute in Rehovot. We explored the subsequent rise of a computer-savvy community of users in Israel's scientific, institutional, and industrial sectors. The Weizsäck project was an unlikely one in a young society facing social, economic, and security problems. At the time, the government implemented a regime of austerity in which the most basic goods were strictly rationed. Many decision makers initially rejected the Weizsäck, but applied mathematician Chaim Leib Pekeris understood its great value. Pekeris' visionary leadership and perseverance won them over. Resources were invested. Funds were raised from Jews worldwide. A team of brilliant young minds was assembled And these scientists immediately stepped up to the task. Weizsäck became a reality. It proved to be a most significant investment that paid off soon against all odds. Weizsäck worked non-stop between 1955 and 1963, when it was replaced by more modern machines. Our research uncovers the extent to which the first generation of Israeli programmers, computer designers, and users emerged from this endeavor, alongside the meteoric ascent of the discipline of computer science. It also underlines the surprising role of a large cadre of women involved in these projects from their inception. This story, largely unexplored till now, helps us understand how the nation was built and how we can continue driving it in the right direction.
Okay, so I invite Professor Leo Corry. Okay, so thank you, Leo. Now to our junior faculty members. Professor Jonathan Berant of the Blavatnik School of Computer Science, Raymond and Beverly Sackler's Faculty of Exact Science. So Jonathan has already made several key contributions in his short research career in the field of natural language processing, or NLP for short, which stands at the crossroads between linguistic, computer science, and artificial intelligence. NLP focuses on the interactions between computers and human language, particularly how to program computers to process, analyze, and make sense of large amounts of natural language data. He's working on some of the most challenging tasks in LNP and has clearly been one of the most creative and influential young researchers in the field. I would add that it is quite impressive that in his short tenure at Tel Aviv University, he has already built a strong group of 7 students who are publishing prolifically and successfully at top conferences. After Jonathan finished his postdoc at Stanford in 2014, he worked at Google for a year and came back, which is nice. He was always interested in languages and started to study linguistics in the Open University, nobody's perfect, okay, while he was still in the army. He has studied English, Arabic, Spanish, Portuguese, and Russian. So let's watch together Professor Berant's presentation.
The Internet revolution has led people worldwide to generate endless texts in hundreds of languages. How can we manage this explosion of information? I lead the Natural Language Processing Group at Tel Aviv University. One of our main challenges is how to answer complex questions on the Internet. Imagine an economist asking which of the top 3 European countries with highest GDP has decreased their carbon emission over the past 5 years. All the necessary information is publicly available, but finding it is time-consuming and frustrating. We developed methods harnessing the ability of computers to sift through millions of documents in a split second to answer complex questions phrased in natural human language. We use methods combining two AI disciplines, symbolic methods to determine and plan the computations needed, and deep learning to perform these computations. In symbolic AI, we automatically translate complex questions into a programming language that can break down what needs to be computed. So to find the top 3 European countries with highest GDP, we first need to identify all European countries, then find their GDP and sort between them. Then, leveraging recent advances in deep learning, we develop neural networks, which are so called because they are inspired by the human brain, to execute these broken down and simpler computations using text documents, tables, images, and databases to provide the final answer. Combining these two approaches results in methods that are both accurate and transparent to end users, allowing them to understand how the answer was reached. An important challenge in developing machine learning methods is to evaluate their effectiveness. My group developed benchmarks and evaluation methods for testing question-answering models used by hundreds of researchers worldwide. Benchmarks in our field are open and freely available, allowing us to advance technological progress as a community at an unprecedented pace. The progress made in recent years is putting natural language processing technology in the hands of billions. This technology can help scientists focus on the creative scientific process aided by their superhuman research assistants. In an age of fake news and misinformation, an immediate valuable application of this technology is the ability to ask about, check, and verify facts across the web. We're thrilled to be contributing our part to these worthy efforts.
Okay, I invite Professor Jonathan Berant. Okay, our last awardee today is Dr. Roi Tzohar from the Department of South and East Asian Studies in the Entin Faculty of Humanities. Roi specializes in the history of philosophy with a focus on Buddhist and Brahminical philosophical, I've always been challenged by this, right, traditions in India during the first millennium CE. Over the past 5 years, his research publications and teaching have been driven primarily by an interest in the Buddhist philosophical understanding of the role and function of language. We have something in common today here. Okay, Roi is already an influential scholar in his field. His first book, published by the Oxford University Press, won the Numata Prize for the best book in Buddhist studies in 2018. Roi is not only productive, but also active, co-heading one unit and founding another at the American Academy of Religion. His work at the AAR, American Academy of Religion, to promote the study of Indian and Buddhist philosophy is widely appreciated, particularly by younger scholars who are drawn to interdisciplinary and cross-regional approaches to Asian thought and religions. Now let's watch together Dr. Tzohar's presentation.
Is COVID-19 an enemy to be defeated through severe measures or waves that come and go? Was the storming of the United States Capitol an insurgency or protest? Is the war in the Ukraine a special military operation or a full-scale invasion and devastation? The words we choose to describe things influence matters of life or death, illness or health, injustice or the right to thrive. Multiple ongoing global crises have demonstrated that the politics of language is crucial to our collective outcomes. How then our use of language shape our understanding and perception of the world around us? And how can our answers help us face pressing challenges of our time? As a scholar of the history of philosophy, specializing in the Buddhist and Brahmanical traditions of India, I investigate how philosophers have addressed these fascinating questions that remain extremely relevant to this day. The overwhelming capacity of language to shape our shared sense of reality has long been recognized by Buddhist thinkers. My research, working with manuscripts and in archives, has found out that during the first millennium CE, an important Indian Buddhist philosophical school, the Yogacara, has argued that all of our language use is in fact metaphorical. We're just unaware of it most of the time. This approach is strikingly similar to some contemporary theories of linguistics. However, being Buddhist, the Yogacara was also deeply concerned with the problem of human suffering. According to the Yogacara, our suffering is the outcome of our inability to properly adjust to reality as it rapidly shifts around us. A major factor contributing to this failure is the inadequacy of our language and abstract concepts to capture, describe, or generalize what is by nature a fleeting and fluctuating stream of events. This predicament, however, is not the end of the story. It can be overcome, says the Yogacara school, by being made aware of the metaphorical nature of our language. This helps us realize how much our own conceptions fabricate and veil the world around us. Once we were awakened to this reality, we can more easily discern fake from real, right from wrong, and we can utilize the creative powers of language not to obscure and deceive, but to enlighten and liberate.
Okay, so I invite Dr. Roi Tzohar. Okay, so I now invite Professor Leo Corry to respond on behalf of the recipient. And great thanks to the foundation.
Dear members of the Kadar family attending online this meeting, Dr. Avram Kadar, Ms. Maya Kadar Kowalski, Mr. Nadav Kadar, Mrs. Einat Kadar Krisheli, Mrs. Lindsay Bodner, Executive Director of the Naomi Praver Kadar Foundation, the academic leadership of Tel Aviv University, Professor Ariel Porat, President, Professor Mark Steif, Rector, Vice Presidents, Senior Administrative Staff, Deans, my fellow faculty members in this university, governors, friends, and guests. On behalf of my fellow awardees and of myself, it is for me a pleasure and a great honor to thank you all for attending this award ceremony of the Kadar Family Award for Outstanding Research for the year 2022. In the context of the annual Board of Governors meetings here at Tel Aviv University, the university repeatedly enjoys the privilege of acknowledging the efforts and the crucial contribution of our donors on behalf of the well-being and continuous growth of our institution, and at the same time honoring the achievements of scholars and public personalities from abroad as well as from Israel, for their contributions to the world of knowledge and the common good. The Kadar Family Award for Outstanding Research is in a class of its own in this regard, as it allows our own academic community to honor the achievements of its fellow members. Our humble thanks as awardees does go in particular to the members of the award committee, headed by Professor Dan Peer, for having considered our work, our efforts, and our achievements to be worthy of this award bestowed by colleagues to colleagues with the support of the Naomi Praver Kadar Foundation. On a personal level, I should add that this is not my first meaningful encounter with the foundation and with its exceptional contribution to our university. As Dean of Humanities in past years, one of my great pleasures was to preside every year over the opening ceremony of the summer program for the study of the Yiddish language, which since 2012 has been named after the late Naomi Praver Kadar herself, a devoted and inspiring educator and teaching of this language and culture, which constitutes such an important part of our Jewish heritage. The Kadar family has been a long-standing, strong supporter of the Yiddish language and Yiddish culture, and this internationally famed program attracts every year more than 80 students from all around the world, Jews and non-Jews alike. It is unparalleled in its quality and fame, and it has been a continued source of pride for our university. Research in our university, both the younger and the less young, are well known for their contributions in the fields of exact sciences, engineering, and biomedicine. There is no need to explain the importance and impact of their achievement, both individually and as a collective. Clearly, the Kadar Award makes a statement in celebrating them and giving them prominence. But one important aspect of this award is in its explicit and target acknowledging that a great university like ours promotes not only just that kind of achievement, but also at the same time excellence in research in the humanities and in the social sciences. You may have heard rumors about a deep crisis in the humanities. Well, come to Tel Aviv University and look at the fantastic impetus in outstanding research that is taking place as we speak in the 5 schools of our faculty. Sure enough, the humanities are facing tremendous challenges, and there is a need to rethink the study programs and the interaction with other faculties in campus. But precisely in an era of such deep technological and scientific change, such as embodied in the path-breaking work of recent Kadar awardees in our university, the study of the humanities are more relevant and necessary than ever before as a central tool to help interpreting and placing in context from a critical perspective how these changes are affecting our society and the individual, how the multifaceted cultural heritage of various cultures needs to be re-examined and profoundly studied, and what kinds of values we must foster in order to create a better world for our children and grandchildren in the challenging times that they will have to face and in which technology and science will continue to play such a central role. And if you allow me to say a word about what is happening now in this ceremony, we see how close and how the great potential of interaction between the fields of research of the 4 awardees and beyond that. So we have a good example of that here. The Kadar Award is equally granted to outstanding researchers in all areas of academic activity in this campus, and in so doing, it is helping emphasize the need for combined action across faculties and disciplines. So, thanks again to the Naomi Praver Kadar Foundation for their tremendous generosity and support. Thanks to the award committee for selecting us. And thank you all for attending this ceremony. Thank you.
Okay, I invite now on behalf of, I invite the president to come as well and all the awardees. And for a photo, yes, it's important. And I want to thank you all for attending, and again, thank the Kadar family and the Naomi Kadar Foundation for their long-standing support and their vision in establishing this prestigious award. And I will say to all of you, see you next year with new, exciting, and talented faculty from Tel Aviv University.